Okay, so this is the Lowell Sustainability Council meeting of September 29th, 2021. Meeting called to order at 6:37 with a quorum of 6 members. The first agenda item is the August 26, 2021 minutes for approval. The minutes should be there, so if anybody has any corrections or edits to make. For those on Zoom, I think I sent them out with the agenda. And also, as a reminder, don't forget to turn your microphone on when you talk so the TV camera can hear you.
Is there any discussion about the minutes? Hearing none, I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes for July 22nd.
Or August.
Sorry, for August
August. Okay.
6th.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, and those that are on Zoom, I can't see you raise your hand, so you have to verbally say something. All opposed? All abstain? Passes unanimously. Oh,
Chris, I abstained because I wasn't at the meeting.
you weren't at the meeting. Okay. 5-1 and it passes. The next agenda item is the guest presentations, and that would be Big Belly Solar, Ethan McCullen.
Thank you.
Jay, I don't know if Jay wants to make an introduction first real quick.
If I could, I'd like to introduce the members of the council. My name is Jay Mason. I'm the chair of the Sustainability Council.
My name is Mary Wamboy. I'm a member.
Hi, I'm Wynn Flint. I'm a member of the LSC.
I'm Michaela Hondras McCarthy. I am a member.
Ethan, if you'd like to go ahead, we're ready and
Sure.
happy to go.
Excellent. Well, great to meet you all, and thanks for giving me time to make a little presentation tonight on Big Belly Solar and a little bit about our product offering and overall just a refresher of who we are and our history with the city of Lowell. So Big Belly builds a two-part product. We build a kiosk that replaces a trash can or a trash barrel that you would find on city sidewalks or in parks, places like that, public outdoor spaces. And the stations, through a wireless connection, report data to a web software platform. And so anytime the fullness level changes, anytime somebody opens the door, they send a little text message to our servers decode it, and they give you a management software to be able to remotely monitor the fullness levels of your stations. We also have a variety of other benefits. The stations are completely contained. Think of them like a USPS mailbox, where if you throw something away, you physically can't reach back in to pull it out. So because of that, you have no wind-blown litter getting out of the trash cans and blowing across your public spaces and into places where litter doesn't belong. Obviously, litter doesn't belong anywhere outside the trash bin anyway. That access also makes it so that critters like raccoons and seagulls and crows can't access the trash and kind of tear a trash can apart. It reduces scavenging by people who might be tearing through a trash bin and creating a mess and then leaving without cleaning up after themselves. We also, the stations themselves have an increased capacity compared to a regular trash bin. They actually hold about 5 times more trash than a regular bin of its size. And they do this using a compaction mechanism it really just kind of tamps the air out of the spaces between the trash. You're not going to get an 80-pound cube of hard-pressed trash when you go to empty the bin. It's really just taking the air out of the spaces between. And the dashboard that we have basically makes it so that by knowing which stations are full, the city has less spots to go around and collect each morning. And by not going around to those spots that don't need to be checked on, they save on mileage. And without, basically by taking these trucks off the road, that's the value that we bring to our customers. That's really our core value. From a sustainability aspect, we give the public a uniform recycling option or trash option at each collection point with uniform signage throughout. So a lot of times cities accumulate different types of trash barrels or recycling barrels over time. They all look a little bit different. They direct the public that certain materials are accepted, certain ones aren't. We create a uniform look throughout the city. We also help you measure your diversion rates. So we can give you a very accurate measurement of how much recycling you're diverting from the overall waste stream. A lot of cities do this by weighing trash as it goes to a recycling center or a transfer center. We do this in a little bit different way using the stations themselves. And then I'll get into the air pollution and CO2 reductions, or sorry, greenhouse gas reductions. So essentially, Big Belly is the lowest cost method to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from your waste collection operation. And the idea is that the lowest emission mile is the mile that you don't drive. There's a lot of, in the waste and recycling industry right now, there's a lot of hype around replacing compressed natural gas and diesel trash trucks with electric trash trucks. We certainly support that. But again, it's about reducing the total number of miles driven in order to get the most greenhouse gas emission reductions for your budget. I'll leave this presentation behind and I'll send it out after the meeting, but there's a number of useful links to papers and sites in this presentation. So, to give you a history of Big Belly with the city, Big Belly has been a company since 2003. We're based down the road in Needham, and we're a small but global company. Lowell has purchased stations since the 08-09 era, and actually has accumulated more than 40 stations owned by the Department of Public Works. Interestingly, there is only one that's still out there now. And the former footprint, which you can see here, had Merrimack Street well outfitted, had the Westford Street corridor well outfitted. There's a lot of small businesses in that area, a lot of restaurants, things like that. So as the regional sales account manager assigned to Lowell's account, I started earlier this summer in this role. I've been with Big Belly for about 9 years, but started this new role back in the June timeframe. So one of the first things that I did was I called the city of Lowell DPW to find out what the current existing footprint looked like. And essentially, I may have been calling when a lot of people were on summer vacations and things like that. But the response was a little bit off-putting. It was essentially rushed off the phone a little bit, but the only information that I could get was that the stations had been deinstalled and didn't quite get a reason why. So after that, the next step I took was to come to Lowell and see what was still out there. So, like I said, I could find one station in the downtown area. It's near the Lowell Memorial Auditorium on Merrimack Street. But so after that, I mapped the existing receptacles in the downtown area just to get an idea of what the city was using for receptacles and the density that the city has. So these pinpoints represent a city trash can that's not the ones that are managed by the National Park Service, but a Lowell DPW service trash can. So you can see that there's great opportunity for condensing the footprint down. There's just an informal mapping of this area. There's 60 plus trash cans in this area that's maybe 5 by 5 city blocks. Kind of the same story throughout parks. I just took a look at North Common and South Common, for example, and you can see a similar density of open-top trash barrels. This is what South Common looks like. So overall, hoping to just open up the lines of communication and give this group sort of a history of Big Belly and Lowell, and at very least, just open up the lines of communication and inform your process. I'm sure you already have plans in motion as far as making city trash collection and more efficient and modifying the way that the city presents public space, trash and recycling opportunities for the public.
Yeah, I have some questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
At some point at your company, you guys must have noticed, oh, they're not taking, they're sending back the Big Bellies. Did anybody ask at Big Belly why they're sending them back?
So they haven't been sent back. They're likely here in a DPW yard or maybe even scrap or something like that. But
Oh, so we own them?
We don't have them.
We own them? When you give them to us, we own them?
Yeah, when the city buys them, the city owns them outright as a city-owned asset.
Okay, so they maybe became broken. We don't know.
It's possible, but unlikely. They're rugged. They're designed to be out there in the in the city streetscape in all climates and things like that. So it's unless a few could have been vandalized or hit by snowplows, things like that over the years. Like I said, they've been out there since '09, but it's unlikely that all 40 of them are broken.
Is Lowell an outlier in that other cities keep it for 10 years?
Yeah, so we've, once you switch over from your regular open-top trash barrels to the Big Belly system, we have very few customers that leave our system and go back to the way they did things with open-top trash cans.
God knows, I have gotten so many complaints about trash
Yeah.
at soccer fields after, the big game of the, what do they call those things with multiple games, like 10 games in a day and the place is a disaster.
Yeah, yeah.
5 times it takes one bin?
Yeah, so we make 2 models. Basically, we have a high-capacity line and a standard capacity line. And the most common configuration that you would see in a city environment is a high capacity for trash paired with a standard capacity for recycling. Just because recycling material doesn't compact as well as usually bottles and cans and plastics and things like that. But yeah, we hold it's a 150-gallon capacity on a high capacity station.
Does Lowell operate and maintain and like empty the Big Belly trash cans themselves?
They did, yep.
So it just goes to a regular garbage truck, but the fact is that Big Belly packs it. Big Belly isn't.
Big Belly is just the receptacle, basically. We're the equipment.
Yeah.
So the city workers still open the stations and empty them when they're full. That sort of
Yeah.
thing.
So maybe there's an issue with them not liking emptying or whatever. They have there's a problem with their maintaining and using that. What they
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. Have you had negative feedback for any reason from any other like DPW from any town? Like, is it harder to empty Big Belly than it is a regular trash can or whatever it is?
I wouldn't say negative feedback. I would say that we give unparalleled visibility into the work that's taking place. So if there's accountability is a factor. And again, I don't want to insinuate that the city is wanting not to be accountable or anything like that. But the process of emptying the stations is very similar to what they would do in the normal open top receptacles.
Oh.
And we have our lift is a way more ergonomic lift than lifting weight out of an open top trash can. Ours has a door that opens from the side. And actually our newer models have inner bins that interface with a truck's lift arm. So you just roll the bin to the lift arm and the truck does the rest.
So this is also reducing labor costs.
Oh, absolutely. So
That's not going to be a big hit.
we reduce labor costs. You're reducing your total operational costs by 80%. So on any given morning, out of a fleet of, say, 100 stations throughout the city, you might only need to go collect 10 of them.
And you're going to know because of that,
And you're going to know because of the app.
that app thing.
Yeah. And so for a DPW worker, they can quickly do the trash run, hit the 10% of spots that need to be done that morning, and then move on to mowing the fields or fixing sidewalks and all the other list of things that they do throughout the day.
Ethan, I'm wondering what the diversion rate was in Lowell. Did you have difficulty with the recycling containers? We get about 25 to 30% non-recyclables in our recycled containers. Do you know if that was an issue?
So as far as I know, it was similar to the way that Lowell's public space waste operates today, where there's only a trash option. Some of the earliest ones that were funded through, I believe it's the Mass DEC, gave a recycling option. In fact, the one that's on Merrimack Street still today was our first ever recycling station our first model line of recycling stations that we built. But a great thing about the Big Belly station is that when you have a station that has two hopper interfaces side by side, like the station that I showed right here with foot pedals, the public have to make a conscious choice to throw something away into this unit. So you don't have anybody able to baseball their non-recyclable item into the recycling side, because you have to either use the handle to open or use the foot pedal to open it as a hands-free option. So that limits the contamination rate, because you have to do the same, you have to expend the same amount of effort to throw away your item, and to help people, kind of steers people to make the right choice.
How much do they cost?
That's a good question. So cities can buy them outright as a capital purchase, and just like owning a car outright, you're responsible for any kind of damage that were to happen to them, or every 3 or 4 years they'll need a battery replacement, things like that. A high capacity unit costs about $4,000, and a standard capacity unit costs about $2,500. And that comes with a 1-year warranty and 5 years worth of software. And these quotes are when we quote somebody, we'll narrow in the options and accessories, things like that. So these are just kind of ballpark figures. We have leasing options, very similar to car buying. You can lease a station and have it be maintained by Big Belly, deep cleaned once a year, that sort of thing. And it's anywhere between 50 to 100 a month per station.
50 to 100?
A month per station, yep. And
So-
that's think of that as an extended warranty where anything that goes wrong, Big Belly does the repair on it, that sort of thing.
So can you tell us what Lowell did? Do you have something, history on that? Did we lease it or did we buy it?
Lowell purchased the stations, yep.
Interesting.
And just to kind of frame that, if you're in a city environment, if you're renting a station, if you're collecting a normal trash receptacle every weekday, any given station, any given street corner will cost about $3,000 over the course of a year to maintain. Because each city is unique. Each city uses a unique fleet of vehicles to do their trash collection. They have a different strategy. They have a different size city. They pay their workers different amounts. So each city arrives at their own return on investment in different ways. I've sent emails to Christine Clancy, but they've not been returned.
Okay, we're on the record again.
So did you get that question, Chris?
Yes, I got that last question. Thank you.
So I have a question.
Sure.
I have a question about the, most people don't like once those compactors get dirty, people don't want to touch them.
Yeah, that's
So-
a good question. So nobody likes to touch anything that's dirty, and nobody in the COVID era, nobody likes to touch anything that has also been touched by somebody else, door handles, things like that. So 90% of the stations that we built nowadays go out with the foot pedal hands-free option. Lets you use your feet to open the station, and we retain the handle for ADA compliance. And most cities clean them as often as they clean their other street furniture, things like sidewalk benches and bus shelters. They can be power washed, things like that. So it's that part is up to the city's discretion for their aesthetic goals.
It feels like something may have like happened that we just aren't aware of in terms of like maybe the DPW found like a lot of trash around the Big Belly trash cans because people didn't know how to use them or something like that, or didn't want to pull something. So it seems like it would be a logical step to ask why DPW had $20,000 worth of trash cans.
I think it comes out, if it was 40, I think it comes out to 100,000. If you got the low capacity.
There's only 5.
Well, I thought you said there were 40.
Yeah, there have been 40
In-
acquired between.
In Lowell?
In Lowell, yep.
So that's,
No, there's 40 trash cans, but only 5 Big Belly trash cans.
No, so there's, the city of Lowell has purchased around 40 trash cans, that's 40 Big Bellies,
Oh.
from around 2008, 2009 up into 2016.
Oh, so
Yeah.
40 of them are missing?
40 of them are missing. I'm sure that DPW knows where they are.
Yeah. But they're not out on the streets.
They're not out on the streets. They're
That's
not
really
there.
curious.
That's weird.
that's $100,000.
So that's a question. Is something, there's
Yeah.
a reason.
There's a reason.
You're definitely on to the right track. I think really my next steps are to find out from Lowell DPW sort of what their take on the situation is and where the Big Bellies are currently.
Would Big Belly ever, since they're older models, maybe not with foot pedal or the other new things, that would Big Belly ever buy back the old ones and give a discount on some new ones or something like that?
Kind of like a trade-in.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't necessarily buy them back, but we could definitely offer refurbishment of any that are still in good shape. They're designed to last 10 to 12 years, so many are likely still in fine shape. We can do things like swap out the front doors for these foot pedal front doors, things like that. But often, when a customer has a fleet of stations or a phase of purchases that are nearing the end of their designed life, Big Belly will offer to responsibly scrap the stations as part of an order for new stations. And when we do that, we basically deconstruct the stations and send the various subcomponents to the right types of recycling. Like the circuit boards go to one recycler, the sheet metal goes one place, that sort of thing.
I wonder if we could request a report from the DPW on the status of the Big Belly trash container and what happened. That would be really
Yeah,
super helpful, I think, for us to understand. And we need to wrap up in the next couple of minutes. So any other last questions, perhaps, or comments about that idea?
We're all ears.
Yeah,
We're very
I would
curious
be
now.
interested as well. I could only see one, in our record keeping, in our Salesforce system, I could see that a WM project where they were going to buy Big Bellies for a Bridge Street corridor improvement project was tied to HUD funding, and that funding never came through. But that was a prospective order that was going to happen that didn't. It doesn't explain the existing stations that were out there that were deinstalled.
The motion would be request a report from the DPW on what happened to 40 Big Bellies purchased by the city in 2009?
Between 2009 and 2016. So the youngest stations in Lowell are only 5 years old. They still have another 5 to 7 years of useful life remaining.
I guess I would request a report for what happened, but also detailing anything they want to add about using Big Belly trash stations. If there's some sort of information that they could provide, whether they like them or.
Include information on the use and maintenance of these items.
Ease of use, likes, dislikes, maintenance burden,
Yeah.
anything like that would be useful.
What was the last thing you said, maintenance what?
I would ask them what their position on the maintenance burden of the stations was.
Thank you.
Was it something that was consuming their time more than they thought it would have originally, or?
Right. And if Christina has
Yeah, I just had a really quick question. You answered it as far as you said that they can swap out the fronts to retrofit them to have the foot pedals. I'm wondering if we can include that, when we ask them, say, you know, they're available to upgrade for, if we have a cost or a figure or an estimate of something, some sort, we can include that information so they can start making a decision to put them back out.
To add to that, so any station from our 5th generation model line is able to be retrofitted. Any station built since late 2013 is available.
Anna Christina, I wonder if we could get the initial question answered first and then get into details about potential ordering of systems thereafter.
Maybe I'm just trying to make it move fast. But no, I agree.
All right, thank you. So the motion as it stands would be to request a report from the DPW on what happened to 40 Big Bellies purchased by the city over the period 2009 to 2016. Include information on the use and maintenance of these items. Ease of use, likes, dislikes, maintenance, version, maintenance.
Oh, I was saying, was the maintenance a burden?
Oh, okay.
You know,
Maintenance a burden, question mark.
Okay, so I have Chair Mason, your motion is to request a report from the DPW on what happened to the 40 Big Belly stations purchased from 2008 to 2016, including information on the use and maintenance of the stations, ease of use, likes, dislikes, and maintenance burden of the stations.
Yes, except it's 2009, I think.
Wait, were 40 stations purchased between 2008 and 2009, or
you can say 2008, somewhere in that time frame, but the earlier the year in the request, it will catch stations whenever they were delivered.
okay, so to clarify, we purchased 40 stations in the year between 2008 and 2009.
The 40 stations were acquired over the period from 2008 to 2016.
They kept buying them.
That's really strange.
It reminds me of like remember those bikes that people kept throwing in the river? Reminds me of that. Where are they? Hopefully no one threw those in the river.
Is there a second to Chair Mason's motion?
You need a second on that motion?
Win just
I'll
seconded.
second.
Is there any further discussion on the motion as worded? Hearing none, all in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All. Sorry, Anna Christina, was that an aye or a nay? Or aye or a lack of an aye?
John, were you an aye?
Yes, I support the motion.
What about Anna Christina?
Anna Christina is the one I am.
Yes, aye.
Okay. Abstain, ignore, sorry, object, okay. Unanimous decision to request a report from the DPW on what happened to the 40 Big Belly stations purchased from 2008 to 2016, including information on the use and maintenance of the stations, ease of use, likes, dislikes, and maintenance burden of the stations.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion on that item, or should we go on to the next item since we voted?
Thank you for that presentation.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you.
Included,
Thank
I'd
you.
like to sit in on the rest of the meeting, if that's possible.
You want to hang out with us?
Yeah, yeah. I was an environmental science major back at UVM a long time ago, so this sustainability committee type thing is right up my alley.
Well, come on over.
Perfect. Let me.
Glad to have you. Our next order of business is continuing business, proposed recommendation, inventory, and mitigation of heat islands. Member Flint, do we have a a few words to say on that?
We have an executive summary. Want me to read it?
I have it in front of me.
All right. Well, I have a little bit longer one than what's in the book.
Okay.
All right. Okay, extreme heat kills more than all the other extreme weather combined. When we learned this as an organization at 350, we were concerned this was not reflected in the city's municipal vulnerability report, which lists hazards that we might expect during climate change. The main hazard and the MVP both described and gave solutions dealing with flooding, which mainly affects property. It's not a killer like extreme heat. The measures that were mentioned to help with extreme heat were put at medium priority, and we wanted them to be made high priority. Extreme heat affects the elderly, children, and those on medications that inhibit the body cooling itself. The areas that need the most cooling are the areas called urban heat islands, which have high concrete and low greenery. These typically also match areas and communities that are lower income, less English speaking, and more immigrants. The state calls these environmental justice neighborhoods. The solutions are providing more shade in the long term and cooling situations during heat waves. The city has a shade tree planting program and arborists, but we want to encourage this to be greatly ramped up. When we looked at the GIS data provided us of the tree canopy in Lowell, we could see almost a complete canopy in areas like Belvedere, but very little in places like the Acre and parts of the Highlands. For accountability's sake, we would like to see a map on the city website of where these trees are being planted. Since it takes years for a tree to provide a certain amount of shade, the planting needs to be done sooner than later. One of the benefits of having more greenery and trees is that it absorbs water, helping with the flooding issue, and also a combined sewer overflow issue. There's only one official cooling station in the city, the Senior Center, which is out of walking range for most of Lowell. We would like to see more cooling centers opened up in the neighborhoods and transportation provided. In the last heat wave, which was great, the heat wave was not great, but the city did a good thing. The city was able to provide some transportation through emergency services. The MVP reports creating a database of vulnerable people to check on during a heat wave, and we strongly encourage the creation of one. Many elderly live alone, and having a database and city workers using it to check up on them would be very useful. Children are affected in a couple of ways. The schools and buses may not be air-conditioned. This means it may be necessary to cancel school during heat waves. The tricky thing here is that the response to closing schools is to add school days at the end of the year. But this will only mean more school during a hotter time. Clearly, this is something that needs to be addressed. And children need more places to cool off, especially unaccompanied children. Children at home while parents are at work. This means more neighborhood cooling features and more places like the Boys and Girls Club or YMCA that are open for these unaccompanied children. In terms of state response, we wanted to see a moratorium on electricity shutoffs during the summer, an expansion of the energy assistance program from heating to include air conditioning, and a change to Mass Save to encourage landlords to install heat pumps. There are other ideas to help in this area that we didn't make it to the report, but we were planning on addressing it in a subcommittee. All right.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
The report talks about significantly lower maintenance costs with pervious asphalt,
Yes.
and I noticed there's a study from Iowa that is cited,
Yes.
and that's fantastic. That's not been my experience. I've heard locally that there's a lot of problems. The porous paving gets filled with sand, especially in the winter when the plows are plowing and sanding heavily or salting.
Okay.
And they complain that it's clogging up the pavement, and you have to vacuum it out. And they don't often get out there and vacuum the pavement. I can imagine that would be an unusual thing to do. It's a new
Yeah.
way of treating a new material.
Yeah.
But I guess, so my point is, how do we change attitudes about pervious paving and let people know that, in fact, it can be less expensive to maintain? And I wonder if we need to do more studies
Yes.
locally to
Yes.
counter that information.
Yes. Yes, we do need to look at that more if that's the information you have, especially since you're an architect. I mean, and you're in the business. Sorry, civil engineer?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay, sorry.
We do the building.
Okay.
The civil engineer does the.
All right. But I think that since you have this knowledge, we should explore it some more
I'd be
before.
happy to help.
Okay, all right.
I actually had something to add as well as far as that type of payment. The additional issue was that it was turning into basically an amplifier of traffic noise. So there was noise pollution issues. But the other thing is a lot of areas, where are you proposing they use this pavement? Because a lot of DOTs right now, they don't use asphalt because it ruts. It ruts really quickly, especially if it's really hot or cold. So it's not practical because you have to constantly replace it.
What are they using, Anna Christina?
The hot mix asphalt, they'll usually try to make it so that they put a little bit more of a bitumen, like a concrete mix, even though there's problems with concrete as far as being sustainable, but they're looking at the problem now. There's new technologies coming out currently. And now I'm moving away from the transportation sector into an environmental firm. So I'm not hearing much about the technologies, but they do come up every now and then on different planning boards that I'm on that are still for transportation.
I'm a little slow and I lost the train of thought. I lost the train.
Well, we're
What was-
talking about the impact of the maintenance issue with pervious paving.
Asphalt.
I got that, but I didn't understand the asphalt thing.
Hot mix asphalt, a lot of municipalities, like a lot of the DOTs, do not like to use them because they rut.
So they don't want to use permeable pavement? That's what we're talking
I'm
about.
not sure about the permeable pavement that is made from an asphalt. Is it not? It's like a recycled.
Yes.
That's what I thought. It was made from some sort of an asphalt. So that might be one issue with it. I don't know. I mean, I can look into it and I'll let you know.
Okay, that would be great because you seem to know more about it than I do, that's for sure.
Well, we just put a pavement, that was one of the last things I did before I left to my new company was we put a new roadway down in the Harvard Square Tunnel, and I know the DOT was like, no, absolutely not. You cannot use asphalt.
Okay, all right.
And they also won't use it at any of their bus stops either, because I guess they've tried to use it and it just becomes a mess.
Okay.
So does the city of Lowell have an urban forest strategy where they give trees or they encourage people to plant trees?
They've been working with something called Greening the Gateway. It's a state program, and they work through Lowell Parks and Trust. And the state, I think through looking at the GIS, decided that it would be best to plant trees in some part of the highlands. And so then people in the highlands would have to go to the conservation and say, I want to have some trees planted in this area. So that appears to be the sum total of what the greening program is. Yes, feel free to talk.
If I could just add a little bit to that from what I know, the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust is doing or managing a state program to plant trees. And you can get a tree planted in your yard anywhere in the city if you just ask. It's a well-funded program that they're trying to expand.
Oh, I heard that they could only do it in the highlands. Is that a different program?
So let me, if I may, I can clarify. There seem to be two programs being talked about now. Lowell's Parks and Conservation Trust can offer trees to anyone in the city, although they don't have to offer tree planting. The Greening the Gateways program is a state program administered through the state that Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust is a partner on to promote the program, let's say, and try and get the word out about it. And there is a planting zone which actually includes an acre and part of the highlands. That was selected because the Greening the Gateways program has a limit on the geographic area that they serve because they want to focus on a certain area to really transform it rather than kind of spreading it out. They want to really, really transform one area. And that area was chosen because it had a low level of tree canopy, but it had a high level of possible tree planting areas. Downtown has a lower level of tree canopy, but it would be much harder to plant trees there, so that wasn't included, for example.
So what I want to like really bring out is that these programs have always existed, even in the city of Boston, but cities with diverse communities don't end up meeting their goals if they are, unless they apply more community organizing strategies. So you will find like the Nature Conservancy, I think that's the name, the Nature something, Conservancy or something, partners with an organization like the Codman Square Initiative. So in a place like Lowell, if you want to incentivize not just a section of the population, we need to go beyond just saying there's a tree planting group or there's a tree planting strategy. It never works. The city of Boston had that for many years. Right now, it's partnering with organizations in neighborhoods that are that are affected most by heat islands, the heat island effect. And so if Lowell is interested in increasing, its urban forest or its canopy, it has to go beyond serving the few. It has to broaden the net.
I believe Anna Christina had a hand up.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I don't know what the name of the area is, but there's a section, and I would wager that it was probably socioeconomically more challenged than, say, the Highlands. But after you go into Bridge Street, and if you look, I'm looking in that area, I'm thinking about it because I just drove down there the other day, was a lot of traffic. Then the sidewalks are really, really narrow. So how would they plant trees on those sidewalks without, completely just avoiding any ADA compliancy rules or anything like that? Is there something else they could do? Like I've seen in Europe a lot of street art, and I don't think it's year round, but they'll put, they'll string from building to building. They'll try to string some kind of cover. So it's kind of like a shaded street. I mean, is there an alternative to just planting trees since it's difficult? And then even if you were to plant a tree in that area, I don't know what DigSafe would find for utilities running under that kind of an urban area. And maybe the root system would have to be really shallow, so it becomes impractical. Maybe there's an alternative other than just straight trees. I'll shut up.
In that line of thought, I am in Montreal very often with Big Belly, and it's a similar situation. Very diverse city, It's actually the most densely populated city in North America. It's not like it's not like, for example, Boston, where people clear out after 5 o'clock. People live there, and they're in every neighborhood, including the downtown financial district. But I will work with my contacts there to find out the specific brand name of products that they use for their misters. In the summer, on every hot day without fail, there are various misters that they hook up to fire hydrants. And they're in parks, they're on busy commercial streets, they're everywhere. But I'll work to find out that product. You triggered my memory because they're sort of artsy looking. They're not just like metal pipes or attachments like that. They have, they have some art to them.
Sounds good.
So I'll take that as
That sounds great.
Yeah.
I want to just encourage us to move on to the next item soon. So let's spend a few more minutes on this. Maybe if there's a motion to explore or some further comments, we'll listen to that and then move on to the next item. Thank you.
I just wanted to say something, AC. Oh, sorry, Anna Christina.
No, that's all right. AC's fine.
Okay, I just saw that on your
AC's fine.
label there. So you're saying there may be an issue with planting trees because the sidewalks are too narrow, there would be ADA problems, the roots might be too small, and perhaps look at something like other shade mechanisms. And,
Yeah, or the misters I thought was a great idea.
yeah.
And Montreal is pretty, but I think Jonathan has his hand up. I think he's been trying to get it.
Oh.
So he must have comment really fast on something there.
Yeah, I should say, people on Zoom, don't put your hands up. Just act as if you're here because we aren't going to necessarily be able to see you. It shows one person at a time, whoever's talking.
And I don't see John. Where's John?
So I have a suggestion. I'm sorry I missed the August 26th meeting where I think this came up and was deferred to tonight. So heat islands are a problem. The city is trying to address it in some ways, like the Green to Gateway program that they're participating in with the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust, targeting neighborhoods that need more canopy than, say, Belvedere, for example. So that's all well and good. What are we trying to accomplish here? Are we trying to encourage the city to address this with some kind of proposals that we can present to city administration or city council? What's the purpose here? What do we want to do?
We want to encourage the city to address the urban heat island problem, looking
Okay,
at solutions, and the big solutions across the cities in North America has been planting trees. I mean, there's other solutions. I mean, in places like Phoenix, you're not going to plant trees, but they have other shade mechanisms, they have cooler roofs, they have, many other ways, but something to get the city council thinking about this, because it's common and it's not pretty.
So do we have a list of proposals other than planting trees that we will formulate and then, vote on and then submit to the city for consideration?
That's what I was
We're
thinking.
going-
There's more to this issue than what's in this report.
Got it. But we have some ideas from this conversation and other reports or whatever that we could put together in a proposal to vote on and then pass along to the city administration.
That's what I was thinking, but since I've only been here 2 times practically, I'll look at you.
It seems like the ideas of like the misters and planting trees, those are some really good ones to focus on. But to continue with what Mary was saying is that you can have all the ideas, but if you don't have the partnerships with local community organizations to actually carry these ideas out, it might not get anywhere. So I think my question is has the city already partnered with like Coalition for a Better Acre or those types of organizations already? And John, as an answer.
Through the Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust is actually working with community organizations, doing outreach, doing translations to reach communities that aren't English speaking about the Green to Gateways program. So that's an example where they are taking those steps. I think it's going to be pretty successful based on the Parks and Conservation Trust track record and the resources that are being brought to bear. My concern in this discussion is we have a discussion about a topic and then we dive into the minutia about it, and then we run out of time before we're able to put together a sort of a plan of action.
So John, can I make a note, because John did miss the last meeting, and I think that was the meeting that we talked about the implementation to action checklist, and I believe, just to review, the checklist that the Sustainability Council voted on is that a subcommittee would work on a recommendation, an action of the council. The action of the council could be a recommendation to city council, a recommendation to the city administration, a volunteer effort, a grant application. But they would work on a recommendation of an action that the Sustainability Council would do. They would kind of formulate that in a write-up or something, in a letter, that type of thing, so that then when it was ready, the Sustainability Council would discuss that. We talked about in some complicated cases, it might take multiple meetings where they go back and they refine it, and then they do another presentation to the council. But ultimately, that was the directive, I believe, that the council agreed upon to, let's say, get a recommendation for heat islands out of the council.
So is Heat Islands a candidate for that process?
that sounds like it's a question to the council tonight, and we would first need a champion for the topic, which I think would be Win. And Win, if you'd like to ask us, frame a question that we can get wrapped around for support, then I think we can take the next step.
You mean to be answered in a subcommittee?
A subcommittee or a further discussion at a future meeting?
Well, it feels like we have a lot to look at. So I say that we bring these questions to a subcommittee and do some work there.
So just as a
Join that
reminder, the last
subcommittee.
meeting said that the subcommittee would include Chair Mason, Member Flint, Member Studwell, and Member Michaela Hondros McCarthy as a subcommittee that would, I don't know if people want to drop out or join the party, but that was, I thought, the committee that was going to work on a suggestion, recommendation for an action of the council.
Yes. You want to go with that? All right,
Yes.
okay.
I think I heard AC mention that she wanted to join. Is that correct?
Sure,
Are you willing
join
to?
that.
Okay, great.
One thing that I learned more about heat islands on is Chronicle on Channel 5 did a half an hour on heat islands within the last couple weeks. Very good information. So that's another resource that could be tapped.
Okay, so the next thing is for me to connect with people and arrange a meeting. And it looks like there'd be less than a quorum, or
Right.
we're not going to need a big to-do?
Yes, if everyone can come and it's over a forum, then one person.
Okay, got it, all right. Thank you for your input, I appreciate it.
That's why we're here.
So it sounds like the subcommittee will come up with a recommendation. This will go off of the agenda until you request for it to be back on the agenda because you have a suggestion for an action for the council.
Do you understand that?
Yes, yes, I do.
All right. Is there any further conversation or comments about heat island effect? Hearing none, the next item up is energy efficiency. Member Wamboy. Net zero is on here, yes. I don't think we're going to have time for net zero.
Okay, so the council voted to continue net zero twice. The council can vote to end the agenda item and it can be brought up again when desired, if that is the desire of the council.
I feel like we have no choice. We don't have enough time to talk about everything. And there was a lot of enthusiasm and interest in energy efficiency. So I wanted to create time for that. So I'm willing to
Got an extra one?
take net zero off
There'll be a quiz in the
off the
morning.
agenda for now. I'd like to see it put back on, but we can only do so many things.
Okay, so Chair Mason motions to close the net zero code initiative agenda item. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstain? Unanimous? Okay, the next item that was on the agenda was the Lowell High School Subcommittee report. That's the same thing. It was voted to be continued. You can do that agenda item or you can vote to cancel it.
I would like to just mention a few things about the progress for the Lowell High School solar initiative, if I could. I need my fingers to work.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. Last week, at the request of Select, the energy subcontractor that we've been talking to, developing information about the possibility of a solar farm on the gymnasium building of the new high school. We attended a meeting at the high school with a tour of the electric rooms and the roofs. that are likely to be sites for solar. There's a 26 or 28,000 square foot roof on top of the new gym, and that's enough for a 300 kW solar system. And we found that same day that there is also a large open roof, very unencumbered with heating and cooling equipment on the roof of the Freshman Academy, the existing Freshman Academy. Now, that building is going to still be a school building, even though it's not going to be part of the school. So it remains to be seen, but it is a likely candidate for a good solar program. We're very excited about that potential because if you can combine your solar areas and get to somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 to 600 kW, you all of a sudden can enjoy much higher efficiencies, and it's a much more cost-effective way to do solar. So I'm in conversation with Gary Ludorf of the Solect Energy Company and trying to find out if the two roofs could be combined. And then we're working with the city to find out if the Freshman Academy can be used. Facilities feels like it would be a good use of the roof, but obviously we need, the city owns it. We need to make sure that the city is in favor of this idea. So that's just a quick update, trying to expand from 300 kilowatts to 500 or 600, and benefit Lowell with a really robust solar energy generation facility. Are there any questions or comments? So to be continued. Thank you.
Okay, so that agenda item is closed and will be able to be added back at whenever there's a new update or recommended action for the Sustainability Council. The next agenda item is the Energy Efficiency Working Group report.
Okay, so we met, when was that? Last week on Thursday, and we had conversations about energy efficiency in the city of Lowell. So I sent something on email that kind of like summarizes what the issues are and what the opportunities are. I don't know if I need to go through them or.
No, just kind of give us an executive summary.
Yeah, so the issue is that Lowell needs to ramp up its efforts on residential and small business energy efficiency uptake if it's going to be ready for decarbonization. And Lowell has opportunities. It has advantages that it can use to take advantage of the soon, the 4-point-something billion state energy efficiency plan that's going to be voted on in October and most likely approved by the DPU in January. So the opportunities that exist are, one, we have an energy manager that knows her job, and so supporting her vision and implementing it would be a plus. We also have to think about workforce development opportunities. Lowell is a gateway city, and as such, there are many people who would benefit from clean energy jobs. And then the other thing is about data. Lowell will need to be ready to be a city that makes data-driven energy decisions. And yeah, I mentioned the state energy efficiency plan. So those are the issues and the opportunities. You can read them more in depth. I am not so sure what the next step is for us as a council, but I think we would need more time to actually be able to write exactly what we would be recommending to the city council if, uh, if we are convinced that these things are good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we had a good discussion, and one of the more immediate things that I interpreted we should be supporting is getting the energy manager some support in the form of hiring someone. Right? That's sort of what I
Right. But I would rather she says that
Sure,
that's
yeah.
what she needs, and we support that vision. Yeah.
So, would we want to invite Catherine Moses maybe to one of our future meetings to sort of brainstorm on ways that we might be able to give her some support?
I would think that we could do that in terms of supporting her, certainly hear what she is working on, and she's working tonight this week on a new program involving an energy advisor. You didn't hear that in the meeting, but she's working on that and said she'd have more information in October. It's a brand-new position that would be available through the state. But, we could write a letter of support.
So let me clarify that. I may have more information on what Catherine was talking about, more than she does, because I was part of the folks designing or providing input to the program. So what Catherine was talking about is the Community First Partnership Program. It is similar to what we had in the last 3-year plan, which was the partnership program. But the Community Partnership Program for 2022 to 2024 is more robust than what was there in the last 3-year plan. And the way it is designed, it will have an opportunity for a city to maybe hire an energy advocate for 5 to 10 hours. So that may not be sufficient to actually do the kind of work that Lowell requires. Because this, for those who know about the Renew Boston plan years ago, convincing people who don't know much about what's happening in the energy and the clean energy work is not that easy. It requires a lot of time and a lot of conversation. So it's possible that even though the Community First Partnership Program is going to bring in some resources, they're going to be insufficient. So, but I support that she should come here and talk to us about that.
So the other option is that subcommittees can talk to, like, let's say Catherine Moses between meetings, develop a recommendation based on that conversation, and provide it as well. I know Catherine was attending to come to a later meeting to reply to a different request for information about the road to 100, those type of updates. So I'm just suggesting there are 2 avenues. You could have her at the meeting, or you could talk to her between meetings and then come with a recommendation for the Sustainability Council to vote on.
Yeah, I like the idea of us just going to her as a subcommittee outside of the meetings. We usually have so much to cover anyway, and then we'd also be able to work with her schedule a little bit better, so it's not just like the 3rd Thursday or nothing. Do we need a motioner? We can just go ahead and do that, right, as a subcommittee?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I like what's been said so far, and I think we've developed some productive potentials here. Mary, what do you think, based on what you've heard so far?
I think that's a good plan. Meet with Catherine in the subcommittee and, engage her in a different meeting that may have been arranged previously. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so is there any discussion on Energy Efficiency Working Group report? If not, that item will be closed and then can be requested to be brought up again after you talk with Catherine, even if it's the next meeting. Okay, hearing none, the next agenda item is new business, the comparison of the climate action plan spreadsheet.
Chris, are you able to bring up that spreadsheet from the shared drive?
Yeah.
This was an exercise that we took on as part of our self-discovery. This was an exercise that we took on as part of our self-discovery work. I think it started in July and extended into the August meeting. I think what I've learned is that different communities having different plans allow you to really better the plan that you have, because you're learning from other communities what they're doing. And these are all similar communities. We're talking about Arlington, which is smaller, but Somerville, which is about the exact same size, and Cambridge, which is bigger. But I think demographically we share a lot of the same challenges. As we started to fill this chart out, I think, again, speaking for myself, I learned that we all have different programs for community choice aggregation. We have programs and goals for greenhouse gas reduction, emission reduction. There's a state program for environmental justice, but that hasn't translated into anything that Lowell has created yet. And I didn't see anything yet and I haven't looked thoroughly through these plans, but I hadn't seen anything yet in Somerville, Cambridge, or Arlington yet. I would like to use this as a place to cultivate thoughts about where we take this program going forward. There's a lot of work that can be done at the Sustainability Council. A lot of it needs to be carefully weighed against the constraints that we have for time and energy. So if we compare what Lowell has done and is doing and is thinking about doing with what's going on in these other communities, it helps with the focus a little bit. I won't.
How long do we have to do this? Because I've been wanting to do it, but this urban heat island and this other stuff has been getting in my way. But I definitely want to look at the programs, but I can't do it next month. Is this like over a period of months we can do this, you're thinking?
I think that's a question for the council.
Oh, okay.
I apologize. I was supposed to fill in column D, and I didn't, so I will do that within the next week. I'll do it tomorrow. Wow.
Gee.
Sorry. I think it's probably an ongoing thing, right? But maybe every month, if someone in particular has gone in and added some interesting information, we can just keep it as an agenda item to touch base on if, someone added something that they want to talk about.
I like
So,
that idea.
so what do we intend to achieve in this process?
My goal for this exercise would be to develop a ironclad set of goals that we have for the body of work that we take on here at the Sustainability Council. I would like to think that we could push this to a higher level of achievement where we develop an energy and a sustainability roadmap for the city that involves really expanding the capabilities to the size of the task. Right now, we're talking about energy efficiency issues that are incredibly complex and difficult and time intensive. We're talking about heat island effect that is incredibly important and health conscious. There's needs of there's basic needs of fundamental health questions that have to be resolved. We're not going to be getting, we're going to be getting 10 to 20 days over 90 degrees instead of the 3 to 5 days we used to get. And these realities are things that we have to find a way to focus on, and I think the council is not certainly positioned to answer all those questions right now. But if I could do what I wanted to answer Mary's question, I think what we would do is develop the wherewithal as a city to staff and position the manpower that's necessary to get these questions answered. We have no staff, we have no paid staff for sustainability issues in the city of Lowell. We have no paid staff for dealing with these problems. We have an energy department and an energy manager that's paid for by the community choice aggregation. The city needs to step up at some point if we care about our future and resolve the issues that are in front of us. So that's where I'd like to see the program go. Where it can go immediately is to be decided by the folks sitting at this table and on the screen.
I feel like this document is a really just good way to inform us of things that other towns are doing that we could do that might be a good fit for us to do, and just keep tabs on what other cities and towns are doing that's working for them. Like if we see that, Somerville just buys, 20 electric buses or something like that, we can easily contact their transportation department and say, well, how did you do this and what were your decisions? Like, we could do things that other people are doing.
Yeah, I think we can use it to inspire ourselves to achieve some of the same things. It's a competition thing.
Well, the LRTA would be the one to purchase the electric buses. Just like, I'm pretty sure that the Transportation Authority purchases all the electric buses, and Somerville has a lot of buses. I don't know if they have any private buses. Is that what you're asking, or?
Yeah, no, I was just giving that as an example. I don't know how many buses they have. It was just kind of like the LRTA we've talked about with respect to electric buses, and if we can hook them up with another transportation department in a city that can kind of show us the way, then that's where this spreadsheet comes into play.
So does Lowell have a climate action plan?
They have the 2025 roadmap. To 100%, right?
It's called Sustainable Lowell 2025, and they're starting now. Chris knows more about this than I do, but they're starting to look at reinvigorating that plan.
Yeah, we have a master plan called Sustainable Lowell 2025. It has sustainable in the title, but it's not really a sustainability plan. It's more of a comprehensive master plan that has sustainability as a core value. We also have a framework for reducing our net.
Can you set that up?
The road to 100, whatever that is. Yes, our net greenhouse gas emissions to zero by a certain year. So we've got 2035. Okay, it's by 2035. So we have a framework for that, and then we have the master plan, and I think
Right.
that's it.
I actually apologize, but I actually have to go. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'd like to try to wrap things up soon. It's 8 o'clock, and I want to be respectful of people's time. I'd like to make a plan. It's not a motion. I'd like to just plan that we continue to keep this item on on the agenda and use it to invigorate our conversations?
Yes, I wanted to say that this is, based on what I just heard, this is very important. This needs to continue being there. Otherwise, we're just going to be having plans that we cannot really implement. So it's good.
So I might actually recommend a vote if this is going to be a recurring, permanent, just because it seems like, in a year you go back and say, why is this a permanent action item? And say, well, we voted on it, so let's vote to get rid of it if we don't like it anymore. So that's what I'd recommend.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue to keep the climate action spreadsheet on the agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstain? Did Anna Christina go? I guess she did. Okay.
And also, Chris, really quickly,
Oh, no, she didn't. Did you say aye to that?
no, it's not important. I'll email you.
Yeah, okay. Did you vote on the vote?
Did you vote on the last, can you hear us, Anna Christina?
Yes, I could hear you. Yes, I said aye to the, yes, keep it on the thing. The only thing was, since I switched jobs, my old email, I lost all the links, and I can't find it in my Gmail, so I was gonna ask them to resend all the links. I'm sorry.
So we'll all have to email you. Is there any other conversation, any other discussion about the climate action spreadsheet? Hearing none, the next item is new business and upcoming events. Do we have anything quickly before we close relative to new business or upcoming events?
We have the National Drive Electric Week on Saturday, 12 to 5 at Heritage Farm.
12 to 5, yeah.
Send the link in the email for that.
I don't think it's an email, but I can forward a link. Or if you just Google NDEW Lowell, it'll come up.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like me to put that in the newsletter?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's Saturday.
I'll say tomorrow then.
Oh, okay.
We have one other order of business. I have to say with a heavy heart that we're losing Chris to another position. I think with the National Northern Middlesex Council of Governments. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up after the meeting, but yes, NIMCOG.
So we have a little presentation for Chris. I'm sorry, those of you on the screen can't sign this, but we made a little card for Chris, and we want to wish him the very best of luck moving forward, and tell you how sad we are.
You're the best.
You've been great.
Thank you.
We're very
Making-
lucky to have you.
Making me tear up. Not quite, but I'd like to say it was a very difficult decision. I work with great people. I love working with you guys. I love working with my colleagues. It was a very difficult decision, but the opportunity was a really good one to be able to continue working with Lowell, which is great, but also work with other communities on housing and economic development.
Beverly Woods and Jay Donovan?
Yeah, that's correct, although they're both retiring in like a month.
Wow.
That's awesome. So we'll still see you around?
Yeah, almost definitely. I'll be working with Lowell. I'll be also doing the volunteer stuff, but I do not know who will be staffing the Sustainability Council meeting. Eventually it'll be the new neighborhood planner, but in the interim, I'm not sure. So I will let Jay know by email before I leave. My last day will be next Friday.
Well, good luck.
Thank you, Chris. You've been great in shepherding the council for the last few years. It's going to be very much missed. Good luck in your new job.
Thank you.
but I can tell that you're great at what you do and that you're well liked and appreciated by your peers. It's, yeah, congratulations.
It was nice to meet you.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess we won't be working together much after this, but I hope we get on.
Well, Chris, you're gonna, I mean, Ethan, you're gonna send that information to Chris before he goes on the misters, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be good.
Yep. It'll depend on how fast my Montreal contacts can
Oh, okay.
figure out the supplier and they can model all those. But
We
yeah.
have them during the
Folk festival?
concert, yeah, the folk festival.
Oh, the city does install them. Well, actually, this is off topic. The next agenda item is the motion to adjourn. If somebody would like to do that.
Adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second, I do something.
Win first, John seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstain? Unanimous adjourn at 8:07 p.m.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah. Bye.